Shōgun is a new show on FX, the first 2 episodes of which have already premiered, but this is going to be a full series review. I got to see all 10 episodes, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it, but I also want to make sure that you know this is spoiler free. I don't want to give too many details away. I want you guys to experience it for yourselves. Without further ado, let's talk about it. With the passing of the Taiko recently, his heir is still too young to take his place on the throne, and as a result of that, there is a power grab going on in Japan. There are a lot of political and religious beliefs playing into this, and it comes to a head when Lord Yoshi Toranaga, played by Hiroyuki Sanada, decides to challenge his opponents, and they in turn challenge him back. But as he's outnumbered, he's trying to figure out strategies on how to come up on top. Eventually, when a European ship lands up over there and he meets John Blackthorne, played by Cosmo Jarvis, he eventually thinks, hey, this might be to my advantage. And so the two of them strike up a very unusual alliance, and that's what leads to the rest of the show happening. The show is based on real history. There are fictionalized things over here, however, which have deviated from that. Names have been changed in order to, try and tell its own story, but it is very much based in a time when there was stuff that was actually happening. And with Toranaga, the actual character himself was trying to make a play for becoming the new shogun, which, as the show portrays at first, may or may not be his intention, but that's part of a long game process. When it comes to this show, the thing I was most excited for is something that I've been waiting years to see, which is to give a bigger role to Hiroyuki Sanada. He's been in Hollywood for years now, and he's been doing a lot of movies. You've probably seen him a ton of times before. He was recently in John Wick Chapter 4 as well, but every time he comes on in any movie, it's always for a little bit, and then he's gone. And it feels like there's this big, opportunity being wasted every time you cast him, which is you can do so much more with him as an actor. Even when he showed up in Westworld, it was not as much as he could have been over there. And so going into this, the opportunity to see him in a lead role and also as executive producer meant you get a little more time. And I'm glad that that happened, because Shōgun is something that feels like a culmination of that anticipation. I think he is fantastic in this show, and he does an outstanding job as Toranaga. And essentially when it comes to exploring that side of him, which is trying to think more strategically and sometimes in a more, slow burn process than trying to just go for the hasty decision, which is what many of his advisors would rather do. So when he's coming up with a plan and there is a chance that at first this might not work out, even if people who are close to him are like, are you sure about this? Because I don't understand what you're doing. But because he plays his cards close to his chest pretty often, it leaves the viewer also guessing for the longest time. Now, of course, the novel, which is written by James Clavell and which the show is based on, of course, if you've read that, then you know how this plays out. But I think it's important because in a show like this, it's very easy to go into it expecting the blood and action and brutal, sequences where people get killed. And you get that. There are plenty of those in Shōgun. There are moments where characters, even some important ones, will get killed on a moment's notice. It's very much like, I've seen some comparisons to Game of Thrones, and that makes some sense. As it stands, what you get with Shōgun is definitely a show which is playing the long game. And how it does so is with some really great writing and direction, which keeps you on your toes and is riveting from start to finish. From the first episode, I was hooked. And until the last episode, I couldn't get my eyes off of it. I was so invested in everything that was happening and the different politics and, religious differences at play, especially when it comes to the Portuguese and the English and the differences that are going on over there when it comes to the kind of Christianity, between the Protestant and the Catholic sides of it, and how all of that is also playing into the different lords who are in Japan at the time and the council which is making the decisions that it is. When all of those elements are being, brought together, there is chance of instability when it comes to writing that. But I have to give credit to the fact that it manages to work extremely well and very authentically, I might add. It does a brilliant job of representing that moment of time in Japan, from the setting, the landscapes, the costume design, the makeup, the different cultural practices at the time, and how certain things have an effect that at first you may not realize, but since Blackthorn's character is someone who has just landed up over there and has no idea how certain things work, realizing how those things work. There's a point where he learns some pretty harsh lessons as a result of that, and he starts to understand more and more how literal or different, the approach to some stuff can be. And I love the way that the show handled all that. And it leads to some great performances as well. I already mentioned Hiroyuki Sanada. He's fantastic. But also Cosmo Jarvis, who plays John Blackthorn. I thought he was really, really good. I thought Anna Sawai, who plays Lady Mariko, I thought she was excellent. And I've seen her now in 2 recent things. This and Monarch Legacy of Monsters. She's the lead in that as well. I thought she was good in that, but I think she is career defining over here. I think what happens from this point on is going to be very interesting career wise. I can't wait to see what else she does. And so much of the emotional core of the series revolves around her. She's someone who has seen a lot of tragedy. And so when that storyline is playing out as it is, and you're understanding where she's coming from, quite literally so, and what has led to this moment, there is so much heartbreak and there's so much that goes into that, and it is beautifully executed. A really, really great storyline. Supporting characters such as Takehiro Hira, who was also in Monarch, by the way. He was really good as Lord Ishido. Tadanobu Asano was also really, really good. I mean, this is definitely... There is no shortage of great performances when it comes to Shōgun. They're all really, really great. I already mentioned the action is extremely brutal, and it is. Beautifully shot, gorgeous cinematography. The production design is absolutely immaculate. It looks so, so good. In fact, half the time, when it comes to shows like Shōgun, it's hard to believe that it's a TV production, because it's just absolutely remarkable. There are scenes in this that would, honestly, they look better than movies. And it's just, that is incredible in itself, the fact that it manages to accomplish that. It has a really great score as well, with Atticus Ross leading it, which is awesome, and it sounds just about as awesome as you'd expect it to. And really, I don't have too many faults with Shōgun. I'm trying to think of it, but my grievances are very, very minor. They have absolutely no impact on the rest of the show. I would say a couple of times maybe it can be a little repetitive when it comes to some aspects of, the storylines. Like, there's a couple of things with Blackthorn that I thought, well, we're sort of repeating this over and over again. But again, much like Toranaga himself, there is an idea of a long game. Everything has an eventual payoff. And so there are points where you'll be watching some scenes which feel like they're sort of going through the motions, but eventually there is a point in the episode where it all sort of comes together. And I like the way that it handles those aspects. It leads to a very satisfying story, and one that I want to explore more in the book. Full confession, have not read the book. I just ordered it right after watching the show. I'm looking forward to it. It's a pretty big read, but I got time to do so. All that is to say, I loved Shōgun. I think it is prestige television, and I think in a time when there's already so much great stuff on TV, this is just another one to add to that. And I'm glad that we live in this moment of time where there's so many great shows to enjoy. And I'm glad that there are so many new things being done with the medium. And it makes me happy because the future of TV now feels a little more, secure. And I can't wait to see what comes next. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the series to come. There's a lot more surprises. There's a lot more stuff that goes along the way. And I can't wait for you all to experience that. And for my money's worth, I'm going to give Shōgun a very well-deserved A+. Like I said, a few minor little grievances. Just a couple of things here and there, but really had no major impact on anything. And that's why I'm keeping the grade as it is. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of Shōgun so far. Like I said, first 2 episodes are already there. Let me know if you guys have enjoyed them so far. What are your overall thoughts on the story itself? And let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Thank you very much once again. And hope you guys enjoy the show.